Today we're back with another episode of Flippin' Friday, and this time we're going back to a build formula that has already yielded us some serious profit. We are, however, also switching up the video formula a bit for this episode, so stay tuned for that. But more importantly, with this CPU and GPU combination paired with these aesthetics, I'm hoping to yield a $150 to possibly even $200 profit on this one. And even if you aren't interested in flipping PCs, this will still be a great budget build guide video to follow. So starting with the parts list, most of you probably know that I'm going to be going with the Ryzen 5 3600. Here's all the reasons why it's such a good CPU for budget builds, but most importantly, when you snag it off AliExpress for 56 bucks like I did, you're just getting so much value for your money. It's a great flipping CPU as well, especially at that price. Next up, we have the motherboard, and I'm rolling the dice again with Amazon resale and going with the MSI B550-A Pro. Most of the time, this is safe to do, especially with the easy Amazon return policy, but in our most recent video, I did get a board with a bent pin, but thankfully it ended up working out just fine. For AM4 motherboards, the pins are on the CPU, so that does minimize the risk a bit more when buying a used motherboard. For the RAM, we're going with the T-Force Vulcan Z 2x8GB kit that's clocked at 3200 MHz, and yes, I know this is the ugly gray version, but it's for a good reason. Typically, I'd obviously rather go with an all-white or all-black kit, but I actually snagged these sticks for just 20 bucks because it was part of a Newegg combo deal, so I had to find a good build to put that to use. I have a feeling this color will blend in with a motherboard and not be so noticeable, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll also have to wait and see about the rest of this parts list after a quick word from today's sponsor.
Today's video is sponsored by GVG Mall, and you probably already know that I've been using them for so long to activate Windows on a ton of my own builds. They're actually running a huge sale right now, which boosts my normal 18% discount up to 25% off if you use code ZTT18, and I'll have that linked at the top of the description. They not only have Windows keys, but also a ton of other stuff such as Office, and even game keys for platforms like Steam, Origin, and Uplay, and they even have console stuff too, like PSN prepaid cards as well. Activating Windows is super simple and only takes like 3 minutes total, so activate Windows today and remove that nasty watermark, and don't forget to use ZTT18 for 25% off.
Alright, so getting back to the build, next up we have the SSD, and this is another Patriot P310, which is a 1TB NVMe Gen 3 drive. With the 3600, Gen 3 is all we need, so no real point in paying more for a Gen 4 unless you find one at the same price. Then, by all means, feel free. For the power supply, we're going with my tried and tested MSI Mag A550BM, which is plenty of power for our GPU. Before that though, we have the case, and this is the DIYPC ARGB Q18-W, and you may have already seen me make a TikTok and YouTube short about this, but not for a good reason. During my Twitch live stream, where I'm always giving away a free PC by the way, I actually sliced my finger trying to pick up this case, which hasn't happened to me in a really long time. I thought we were over the days of budget cases having sharp edges, but I almost cut my finger multiple times throughout the night handling this case, so honestly, I don't recommend it for that reason alone.
These edges are legitimately sharp.
For 55 bucks on Newegg, I got some pretty decent value out of it if you don't include the cost of bandages and emotional damage.
Emotional damage!
But because there's so many other budget case options out there, including ones from DIYPC, I wouldn't really recommend going with this one. It'll get the job done for a PC flip because it looks really nice, but not a fun option to actually work with and build inside of. I also discovered another negative during the building process, but we'll talk about that in just a bit. Next up, we have the cooler, and this is yet another Thermalright Assassin X 120 SE ARGB. This continues to be the best possible value for any ARGB all-white CPU air cooler for less than 20 bucks. After that, we have the cable extensions, and this is probably the single product I purchased the most here at ZTT, the Asia Horse all-white 16-gauge extensions. And finally, to wrap up this parts list, we have the GPU, and per usual on Flippin' Friday, we're going to try to target an NVIDIA RTX card because that's what sells the best and the fastest, and this is the Asus Dual RTX 3060 white model, which I bought for $220 used over on eBay. Now, $220 is definitely not a great price for just any RTX 3060. You can actually find them closer to $200 and sometimes even lower. However, if you want an all-white version for those extra aesthetics like in today's build, you'll have to pay a little bit more money. You absolutely can make a profit with the all-black builds, but most of you guys know my style already, so that's just how we roll. Right now, we're usually going with the wood grain or the all-white builds for the aesthetics. I think a Ryzen 5 RTX 3060 and all-white with ARGB gaming PC is simply the sweet spot for flipping right now, but we'll find out later how it actually sold and for what kind of profit margin. And speaking of which, here's what the full parts list is looking like, and I ended up paying a total of $567 for this build. If you're trying to copy this along at home, you can more or less copy this for yourself. You might not find as good of a RAM deal that I had, but at the same time, you might find a much better RTX 3060 price, which should even things out. Now, during the building process on the Twitch stream, I did run into a couple of issues, but it was most notably with that case. Not only did I slice open my finger and almost sliced it open multiple times, but the other thing that was disappointing was that the ARGB fans weren't daisy chainable, so I couldn't add another ARGB product to control them all at once. Usually, DIYPC either includes a hub or daisy chainable product, so I'm not sure why they didn't do it with this one. This case definitely seems a little off-brand for them and not up to the standard that they've set over the past 2 to 3 years, which is a real shame. The other problem we eventually ran into is that the ARGB connectors weren't working on our motherboard and we never actually found a fix for it. Again, this is probably just the risk of buying a used motherboard, so instead I had to throw in one of those SATA to ARGB connectors, which now works perfectly fine, but it is kind of annoying that in order to switch the RGBs, you have to press the button on the case for the case fans and then press the button on this adapter for the CPU cooler fan. Big letdown on this case from DIYPC. Now, for this new layout of Thirsty Thursday, I gotta change up how we roll for these videos, so let me explain. One of the biggest reasons why we don't crank out more of these episodes is because we can't film and edit them until after we make the sale. I want to release more episodes and do more flips, and I definitely see comments from you guys saying the exact same thing, so what we're gonna do from now on is report back in the next episode talking about the sales story of the previous episode. I'm gonna attempt to sell today's build at $750, which should hopefully equate to a solid $183 profit, but I won't reveal the results of this until the next episode of Flippin' Friday. Sorry if that makes you feel like I'm leaving you hanging, but I do feel like this will allow us to crank out more of these videos and faster, more frequent for you guys, so hopefully that all makes sense. It'll also hopefully give you a bit more motivation to keep on coming back for the next episode, and we'll build a little storyline here as we work our way up to $1,000 profit or however high we go. As of right now for Flippin' Friday Season 2, we've only successfully flipped 4 builds so far, but we're at a total profit of $582. That means that we're already playing with house money this early into the season because the cost of today's build is actually less than our total profit. As of writing this script, I just got the build posted up on Facebook Marketplace, and here's what the listings and photos are looking like. Per usual, I made sure to scroll through the different colors of RGB options so the potential buyers can physically see what they all look like. This paints a picture in their head that this is a high quality looking build with some aesthetic flexibility. I also included benchmarks for the most popular titles right now, but for you guys here on YouTube, I'll show you a bit more. We tested 20 different games, and here's what kind of results we got. The Ryzen 5 3600 and RTX 3060 is already a solid 1080p medium to high level of build, and it can definitely handle absolutely any game you throw at it. Per usual, we're also uploading a dedicated benchmarking video for this build over on the ZTT Extras channel. Be sure to subscribe to see those videos.
Quick little update on this build. We're having some more problems. I already told you about the ARGB ports not working on this motherboard, but we discovered after benchmarking that the top SSD slot also doesn't work. The reason why we discovered it later is because whenever we benchmark these builds for YouTube, we use a 2.5-inch SATA drive. That way we can just bounce it around from build to build. And right before I went to sell this PC and configure it up for selling, Sam discovered that that SSD slot doesn't work. So this was a used motherboard, but we returned it on Amazon resale. They sent us another one, and we got the same error. Again, that top slot isn't working. So I usually don't really believe in coincidences like that. So we tried swapping the CPU and everything, and I think we just got really, really unlucky. So what I'm gonna do now is buy a brand new B550 motherboard after I return this. The brand new version only costs $14. It's an ASRock Phantom Gaming B550, I believe. So we'll take a $14 hit to the profit margin, which isn't that big of a deal. Hopefully we still end up on top, but yeah, just wanted to give you guys an update here, very unscripted, and let you know that whenever you're flipping PCs, it doesn't always go as smooth as you hope it does. But hopefully once we get that new motherboard, this will be good to go so I can finally sell this thing.
But yeah, I'll report back to you all with the update on how this sale goes, and hopefully we don't go too far in between episodes any further. If you haven't watched the previous episodes of Flippin' Friday Season 2, then feel free to check those out, which are on the screen now.